1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome back to the Country and Cold Cans podcast. I'm your host, Logan, sitting here with truck driver Andy, sanitation Kyle, and
Howdy.
for his very first episode here on Country and Cold Cans, our esteemed guest, the original BKMC, Classic Rock Carter. How you doing, Carter?
Doing all right, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah, glad you're on, man. Hopefully we can have you on a
Appreciate you
little
having
more
me.
here in the future, you know? So,
Hey, maybe we'll see.
and we'll see. You're working on your thesis right now, right? I see you're a college
Yeah.
grad behind you with you.
I mean that's the 4-year, but I'm looking to slap a master's up beside it.
We're going to call you
hopefully.
Dr. Classic Rock?
No, you'd have to call me a master of classic rock.
Master of Classic Rock. Gotcha. Okay, solid.
Then I'll go for the doctor of classic rock.
Doctor of classic rock.
Once I get a job in classic rock and work a little bit in the
where would
classic
one-
rock field.
Where would one go to school to become a doctor of classic rock?
The School of Rock, bruh.
Of course.
So Jack Black is the professor.
Yes, me and Jack Black, we're close. We're tight.
You're tight.
I got him
Okay,
on speed
solid.
dial.
Would you say that he's your mentor?
Yeah, listen to a lot of Tenacious D. Watch the movie every day.
Is that like core curriculum for School of Rock? Is the
Oh,
movie School of
absolutely.
Rock? Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Glad to have you on Classic Rock Carter. All right, so I guess let's jump right into things, right? Like our rundown today, we have two main topics we want to cover for everybody here. And the first one is Riley Green's new EP that he just released, If It Wasn't for Trucks. I'm going to throw it out there to the man in Montana sitting in his truck since it's aptly titled If It Wasn't for Trucks. What do you think, Trucker Andy?
I like the EP. I don't like the title because I don't like the title track.
But you're sitting in a
What?
truck and you're anti-truck. Listen to this guy.
Yeah, I know.
Hypocrite.
You know.
Hypocrite.
That would be like Carter saying that he's anti-classic rock when his name is Classic Rock Carter. It makes no sense.
I feel like
What are you doing,
if it
Andy?
wasn't for trucks was the one real low point to me. I don't, as you said before this, that if I didn't wear boots is basically the same song. I'll let that one slide. It's a little bit, that is a little bit classic for the Riley Green type thing that he does. That's not an unusual song for him to do. I thought that was pretty good. I also thought too is that if it wasn't for Boots and Jesus and Wranglers, I thought those sounded exactly like something John Party would do,
I can see that.
lyrically and sonically speaking. Jesus and Wranglers sounds exactly like a John Party song.
Yeah, so I guess let's kick it around the round table minus Classic Rock Carter because it's not talking about classic rock, so he does not give a shit. But when it comes to the Riley Green EP, what do you think is the best song on the EP? Let's start with Sanitation Kyle.
Behind the times, no doubt.
Behind the Times.
Yeah. And if you don't mind, I'll give my little
Yeah,
5
for sure.
quick hitters. I didn't wear boots, and if it wasn't for trucks, sound like Nashville hits. Just being honest.
Concur.
They're radio sellers. They put them on a chart somewhere. Behind the Times, a phenomenal song. And and Jesus and Wranglers, to me, it sounds like a good tailgate song.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, it's just
Concur.
something you can jam at a tailgate.
Look, I agree with me. It's not even just tailgate. It's good driving music because when I was
I
driving
agree.
home from work today, it's the fall weather starting to kick in here in North Carolina, and I had the windows down. Going down Six Forks Road, had Jesus and Wranglers playing, and they just fit the mood perfectly.
Yeah, I agree.
But yeah, I generally agree with you guys on so far on what you've said about the EP. I think the EP is one of the best things we've had come out of the mainstream this year. And we've had some pretty solid stuff come out within the last calendar year, but even in the last 6 months, we've had some pretty solid stuff come out of the mainstream. But in particular, this EP, I like it because one thing you can say about Riley Green, I mean, you can criticize, and I have at length on past podcasts, I've criticized his songwriting for being a little bit reliant on list style songwriting instead of using a little bit more of a narrative take. But I will say the one thing that you can always count on with Riley Green is his music will sound country. And I'm here for that, man, because all too often, a guy signs a Nashville label. He goes in there. They tell him what he's gonna wear, what he's gonna sound like, and then you get you get Kane Brown. So yeah, but
Lost in the Woods.
yeah, you get lost in the woods. But yeah, and then he starts referring to Merle Haggard and Johnny Cash as red dirt artists because he has no concept of what red dirt means. Did you guys see that?
I did not.
Yeah, I was like, what in the world, man? Like, he has no concept of it. it blew my mind. But Riley Green, his music's going to sound country. Carter's already getting bored over here because we're not talking about Van Halen or somebody. But his music's always going to sound country, and I really dig that. But in particular on this album, my two favorite songs, like I have to agree with Kyle, Behind the Times. And there's this, what I think is good about this album is like there's this constant theme through the album, through the EP, I should say, of it's talking about how he was raised, his values, and what his family brought him up to be. And it's no secret, it's more of a traditional values kind of EP because that's who Riley Green is. And I think that that's important right now because far too many people are acting like that being traditionally minded is a bad thing now. And I think in a lot of ways, like, you can learn something from the older generation, and there's some stuff we need to improve from the older generation as well. But you can learn some stuff from the older generation. That's what I really like about Behind the Times. It's talking about his granddaddy, how different things he did, the way it walks through the relationship with his grandma and his granddad, and like the way they went about it in a traditional way that I think is very admirable. Things that are lost on modern society. And look, I'm going to go on and say it. If every other artist and podcast out there gets to talk about, their leanings in one way or the other, I really dug the line where his granddad was saying, I don't talk politics much, but we could use another Ronald Reagan because I'm a big Ronald Reagan fan. So it's I really did dig that line. But that song really stuck out to me because it's talking about learning something from the older generation. And I know Trucker Andy and I both, agree with that, and even Carter does too. Carter has a very close relationship with his grandparents, so he's kind of on board in some ways with that as well.
Yeah,
I thought that was the second best song on the EP.
What do you think was first?
I thought Better Than Me was the best song.
Better Than Me, that was a close second from. That was the second one that I
thought that you would have picked that for your number one too.
So what was your reason for that being number one?
I like how it does the whole sort of more in a religious sense of the traditional values thing too, but it was more of what I thought I knew. I found out that I was wrong and didn't know, someone knew better than me type deal. I just like that style of looking back at what you thought at the present from, a future point of view type deal.
Yeah. And look, I can agree with that because Better Than Me in particular is a in the moment song that will hold up in 5 years. And I say that meaning because it's very in the moment because it's written from perspective of, I want to say, and I could be wrong on this, I'll fact check this after the podcast, but I want to say that the boys from Muscadine Bloodline co-wrote that song with him. But that song in particular, it's written from perspective of right now going through like the pandemic, how everybody is kind of like going through something they've never done before.
It's also not exactly though, because in the future you could also pull that from where it doesn't, the way they worded it, where it's not exactly the.
Well, they didn't go right on the nose like Luke Combs would with 6 feet apart and all that shit. But it's like, but it is distinctly about right now, like sitting at home, like his grass looks like Augusta, and he got around to painting the fence. and the good Lord knows better than me. Maybe where I'm going is better than where I've been. Like The themes in that song, I think, as a religious person, is I think it kind of brings you back to your roots. It brings you back to what's important in life. I think it was the point you're getting at, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, for sort of, yeah.
Yeah. So, Carter, did you have any comment on what your favorite song was on the EP?
I liked when he talked about being Southern.
All right.
So if it wasn't for trucks.
Yeah, really though.
I liked when he sang the country song.
All right. So, Kyle, do you have any criticisms you want to bring up about this record?
Well, to concur with you and Andy about if I didn't wear boots and if it wasn't for trucks, kind of mainstream Nashville. Yeah, they're fine songs. They're just fine.
I think that we're missing the point too, that it's the same damn song.
Yeah.
Like the title is too similar. This is my biggest criticism on this EP. Title's too similar. Like the theme is too similar. Like it's just, it's like he looked around, and I'm saying this not like being serious, but being like, he looked around, he saw his boots and he saw his truck, and he's like, hell, I got an idea for a song. And he wrote the same song twice. So, but they're both, I like both in a vacuum. I like both songs a lot. Honest.
Yeah, they're fine. And on Better Than Me, you can never go wrong. I like new songs that bring in older country artists. I believe
for sure.
I believe he's from. Wasn't he a member of Alabama?
It was Randy Owen from Alabama.
Right, yeah. I love those songs. Again,
Now,
never go wrong.
Classic Rock Carter can get down to some Dixieland Delight.
Oh, I'm all for Alabama.
Carter didn't you go to the Bowery in South Carolina? Place where out?
No, we drove by it quite a
Drove
few
by
times. I don't think we ever went in.
Yeah, because that was the place in Myrtle
Yeah,
Beach. A lot of people don't know that that's the place where Alabama was the house band there before they hit it big for like a decade.
Every
So-
time we'd go, we'd drive by it, and you'd say, "That's where Alabama started out," and we never
Sounds
go
like
in.
me. I like to tell the same stories over and over again. So that sounds very on brand for me. But Andy, so what Curtis, do you have anything in particular you didn't like?
If it wasn't for trucks,
You didn't like the song
pretty much.
at all?
I did not like that song.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I don't like it because I have heard those exact lines for the 2000th time, and I was tired of it by the third. So I'm kind of just do not want to hear it, period, anymore.
Yeah, I mean, do we really need another truck song? I'm kind of with you on
Yeah.
that.
That's why I was given. If I didn't wear boots, the sound was a little better, and I'll give that one a little bit of a slide. I don't hate it as much as if it wasn't for trucks, but it was a low point as well.
Yeah,
I feel like
Now-
that song is easily memed as an insult to country music.
if it wasn't
Yes.
for trucks? Oh, easily, yeah. Because everyone,
Or
this is my thing about like people who don't ever listen to country music. They're always just like singing about your dog dying, the truck broke down, your woman left you, and I'm just like, all right, name me like 5 songs where a dog dies. Like it's not that prevalent of a theme, but
Dirt roads, girls in jean shorts or any sort of or sundresses, fishing when they've probably never held a fishing rod or put a worm on a hook in their life, hunting when they've probably never shot a gun outside of a gun range. Should I go on?
I mean, look, I think that's enough. But but no, like, look, fair points, Carter. I mean, look, if you're talking about the mainstream country music that's on the radio, a lot of the times, especially like 2013 to like 2 years ago, it was at a low point. I mean, I can agree with. We used to in college when Carter was just working on his associates in classic rock. We used to.
Bachelor's, damn, you're gonna undersell me, Jesus.
Oh, I'm sorry. His bachelor's in classic rock. Good Lord, Carter. but yeah, so we used to make fun of some of these songs. Like Carter used to pretend to write these songs. They were actually pretty funny. Maybe one of these days we'll get him to perform on the show.
One of these days.
One of these days. Got it. Hey, look,
You're gonna have to cut me a bigger check than what you're cutting me right now, there, D-Berry.
yeah, look, hey, we'll see. But but yeah. So I mean, overall, like, let's everybody give it a grade. I guess is what a lot of people do. I'm not a big fan, but give it a grade. What do you think out of 5 stars? What do you give it for if it wasn't for trucks EP as a whole? Start with sanitation, Kyle.
I would give it a B+.
B plus.
Yeah.
So you give it a B plus out of 5 stars.
B+ out of 5.
5 stars. I give it.
I was going with the grade because I was thinking the exact same thing earlier about with
Can
the
we-
letter grade.
Are
We're
we
changing
allowed
from stars to letter grades.
Okay, we'll go with letter grades then, just to
a B+?
B plus. All right, Andy,
I'm gonna give it a minus.
A minus. I give it a strong B plus. I'm gonna side with Kyle on that. Like I think that it was thematically really good and like I said, very important in some ways. I like a lot of the themes as somebody who's a little bit more traditionally minded, who's also a person of faith. But it was lacking in some of the songwriting department to knock it down just enough to give it a B plus in my mind. Do we want to throw it over to Classic Rock Carter or? What do you
I give it a bunch of nostalgia out of 5.
Solid. All right, moving on. Next topic. We covered Riley Green, but now it's for the main anchor topic that we will really want to talk about today. And this main reason, the hook that we got, Classic Rock Carter in here, because after all, he is going to be the master of classic rock here soon. And we're going to put that knowledge base to the test. We're going to see if he actually lives up or if he just paid a lot of money for a BS degree. So here we go. We're going to talk about who is the greatest American artist. And this encompasses all genres. It's not just country music specific or even rock music. It's all genres as a whole. And the basis for how we came up with our opinions on this is you got to have a mix of commercial success, obviously, artistic integrity, artistic like prowess, songwriting, and longevity. Like you mix all those things together, and who do you think is the best American artist? So to start off the bat, let's go to Sanitation Kyle. Sorry, I almost said Sanitary Kyle. Sanitation Kyle.
I believe I am the only different one in the group, but I'm going Michael Jackson.
Michael Jackson, interesting.
Yes. Both my parents were 80s kids, so I grew up listening to a lot of Michael Jackson. They're both big Michael Jackson fans. Unrelated to his personal foibles, he alleged, whatever you want to say, he
allegedly.
Hey, this is a family show. We won't get into that.
Yeah, we won't get into that. He was an American icon for
sure,
for at least 25 years.
Oh, I would say maybe even longer than that, because you got to go back to his days when as a little kid with the Jackson 5, man.
Yeah, like, I'm saying from the 1970s to at least mid 1990s, maybe early 2000s.
Hell of a talented dude.
Yeah, incredible voice. So that's my choice. And I'll save my rebuttal for another opinion.
I mean, you're not wrong. The man literally has the title, the King of Pop, for a reason.
For sure.
He's got the sales to back it up. He's got the music to back it up. He's got the voice to back it up.
Hey,
he's got the dance moves to back it up, even though we're not judging it off that and the showmanship.
Kyle, if you will, while we're talking about the next, like while we're still talking about Michael Jackson, look up how many times he topped the chart.
13.
13. Okay, that's pretty solid. Like that's
13 number ones.
Was that on the top 200 chart? Because if so, that's insane.
I'm pulling a USA Today article right now that I was reading earlier. Yeah, 13 number ones and one more which he contributed vocals, blah, blah, blah. Number one hits in the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s.
Oh, wow.
During the 1980s, he had 10 number one hits alone. So, yes. Yeah, so 13.
13. And that's on the top 200 chart?
That's the Billboard Top 100.
Oh, wow. That's pretty impressive, because I believe that chart, and I could be wrong on this, but I think that chart encompasses all genres.
Yes.
So anytime anybody tops the top 100, top 200 chart, whatever you want to call it, that's an impressive feat, because not many artists top it that many times. Like I know these days with streaming, there are some guys that have hit it a lot. Like Drake's hit it a ton recently, I believe. But I mean, that's impressive. So throw it over to Montana man, Trucker Andy. Who did you pick?
Well,
greatest American artist.
I'm gonna have to go with Tom Petty.
Tom Petty.
And because when you told me that 2 weeks ago, first thing I told you was I didn't think so.
Yeah, you told me I was dead wrong.
I've spent the last 2 weeks trying to figure out who was better than Tom Petty, and I cannot come up with anything. So I can't even come up with anything close. Still think there might be someone better, but I can't think of it. So,
do you have any like things to back that up, or just I like this guy, so he's the best?
The amount of popularity he had for the quality of songs that he had. Everybody loves Tom Petty. You wear a Tom Petty shirt around town, somebody is going to say something to you about that shirt. He is that popular, and everybody likes him. And it's not like where there's certain people that are extremely popular that the quality of song is not there. He had the amount of popularity with the quality of song.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going to have to give it to him at.
Speaking of Tom Petty and the Heartbreaker shirts, let's throw it over to the soon-to-be master of classic rock Carter. Carter, I kind of think we all discussed who our picks were. Oh, Andy's got one now, too. He couldn't be outdone by classic rock Carter. So, Carter
couldn't even be bothered to put it on.
I know, he couldn't even be bothered. Talk about like not being committed to the show, Andy. Like,
I literally just put this thing on before this podcast even started.
Exactly.
Yeah, but Carter, you're at home. I took my
Andy,
Tom
you're
Petty
at your home. You live in a truck.
Your home. You live in a truck. On wheels.
You live in a truck and you hate songs about trucks. Explain that one to me, Montana man.
Tom Petty is still on tour with me. Damn it.
It's still real to me, damn it. All right, Carter, let's get this train back on track. Greatest American artist, too.
So I literally have this Word document in front of me. I spent pretty much a good portion of today trying to run through my mind who in the world would I consider the greatest American music artist. I've got a list of about 12 people that I personally think are up there, and then 10 honorable mentions. And of course, as with any list, this is all, my personal experience. This is who I listen to. Let's be completely honest here. We're not going to have a ton of rap and hip hop artists on these lists. We're not going to have a bunch of people that were long before our generation. Like, I think Chuck Berry is probably the oldest person on my list. I'm not going to be able to go.
What generation are you a part of?
Boomer.
I'm a millennial.
Well, I mean, because
I'm a damn millennial.
We haven't talked about anybody who's been a part of our generation, but
well, I'm aware of that. But stuff that's more accessible, like there's very few oldies except for like the big names in mine. I'm sure other people that are listening to this probably can comment on other people that we've left out and can make good arguments for that. So sadly, I do have to agree with.
Give us your top three before you give us your top, or give us your number 2 through 4. Since you did all that work, I don't want it to be for naught. So give us some of who you think are some of the best ones before you unveil your number one, because you definitely put in some work, and I wanted to let you know it's appreciated.
So
this is what preparedness looks like, Andy.
I didn't really rank them. I thought we were just going to kind of be like, throwing opinions out and like throwing out names and discussing them and, reasons why you can arguably consider them to be one of the greatest American music artists.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm kind of going to just go through some of my names here. I'll say number 5, I'm going to throw out Dave Grohl.
Okay.
Just because of how much of an influence he's had on music in general. I mean, most people would know that he was. Most people know that he was the drummer for Nirvana, and he pretty much started and was the lead singer of the Foo Fighters. He wrote a lot of songs for Nirvana that did not get used because Kurt Cobain shot them down. Which fair enough.
Was that a euphemism? Was that a double entendre? That's kind of not appropriate for this
show. Wow. Okay. Yeah. Family show, and we're getting real dark right here before we even get through all of them.
But Andy started laughing, and my mind immediately jumped there. I was like, bad choice of words to talk about Kurt Cobain.
The one word you shouldn't use.
In the entire English language, Carter chooses Kurt Cobain shot them down. All right.
Better than shooting himself down. But anyway.
Back to Dave Grohl.
Nirvana, he was the drummer for Nirvana. He wrote a lot of songs for them that never really got used, which he then stockpiled for the Foo Fighters, which is honestly one of my favorite, more late 90s into 2000s rock bands. Probably my favorite band of that time period. Went on to form the supergroup, Them Crooked Vultures.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he formed that with... Christ. It was the guitars from Led Zeppelin.
Somebody and somebody.
It was the guitars from Led Zeppelin, I think. All this research, and I don't remember this. Real professional here on the Country and Cool Cans podcast.
Well, we don't have to go into the details of the Thunder who?
Yeah, Them Crooked Vultures. It was.
Okay. I was about to say the Thunderbolts. I was like, that's not right.
Josh Homme Homme, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, Queens of Stone Age on lead vocals on guitar, John Paul Jones of Led Zeppelin on bass, and then Grohl played drums and did backing vocals, which is a lot of people consider one of the better supergroups. Dude's just incredibly talented. I have a lot of respect for the man, especially considering that, like, he mentions a lot of having to put up with Kurt Cobain. Kurt's in my honorable mentions, but I don't think I have him there solely because, Nirvana was such a big shift in popular music.
Yeah.
Not necessarily because of long-term success or being a great vocalist, but they were incredibly popular at the time. You have to at least stands for something.
I do have a hot take on Kurt Cobain.
All right, let's hear it.
Kurt Cobain was a very talented guy. Nirvana was a very good band. I'm a fan of Nirvana, but Nirvana is only held in the esteem that they're held because of the way it ended for Kurt Cobain. I always will believe that. I don't think that they would have been immortalized in the way that they are I mean, their influence obviously was pervasive throughout rock music, like sure, but I think that because of the way it ended for Kurt Cobain, he's been immortalized in a way, and the band has, that probably wouldn't have happened if they had toured for 15 more years.
I agree with you on that because I think eventually people are going to catch on to the fact that Kurt Cobain was a nutcase.
He was.
And you could tell if
You're
you
not
listen
wrong.
to some of his songs, that guy's crazy. That guy was writing some crazy stuff down on paper and then saying it out loud.
He had a lot of issues,
Yeah,
a
he
lot of
did.
issues with drugs,
Which is
a lot of
unfortunate
issues with
because he's a talented dude. So it's unfortunate.
a lot of
he
issues
went
with
through
his
all that.
wife at the time. But we're not going to get into that, just as we didn't get into it with Mr. Jackson. Let's see if I'm going to move on here. This is one that I think probably not a whole lot of people are really going to bring up. The lead singer, and who many would consider the head of the band, Creedence Clearwater Revival, John Fogerty.
Okay, center field. Put me in, coach.
Yeah. So what a lot of people, especially in our generation, don't realize is that from the span of 1968 to 1972, CCR was probably the biggest band on earth. Like,
CCR was an honorable mention of mine.
Yeah,
that's fair. Now, there's a reason I only put Fogerty, and that's because on their very last album, Mardi Gras, the rest of the band wanted to pitch in and help write the songs and sing the songs. That album was garbage. It was hot garbage. It broke the band up. Fogerty went on to have a solo career that was still really good. Fogerty pretty much was the driving force behind CCR. He was the driving force behind his solo career. There was that 5 years there where they were the biggest band in the world. I think he deserves to be up there as one of the top guys. I hear he was a douche, and he was like one of the worst people to work with.
A lot of them are douches, to be honest. A lot of big artists, even in the red dirt scene, a lot of them are assholes. Some of them are really good dudes. Some of them are assholes.
But yeah, I think Fogerty, at least in my opinion, is up there. And of course, you know, going to be a lot of classic rock with me. Number 3, actually including a female on this list. I know, revolutionary idea here.
Hey, look at you.
Stevie Nicks of Fleetwood
Hell
Mac.
yes. Hell yeah, brother.
I was
Stevie
telling
Nicks
Logan
is up
about
there.
that.
Stevie is, in my opinion, probably the best female artist ever.
I
I
can
love
agree with
Fleetwood
that.
Mac.
I
I love
agree.
her solo stuff. She had a very decently long career from the early 1970s into the late 80s.
Kyle's over
you
here saying,
could-
"What about Lady Gaga?"
Oh, come on now.
You could probably say her career spans into the 90s, but I kind of didn't really include that in her success because that's when she really starts getting hard into drugs and issues with the band and stuff like
That way,
that.
said personal life was off limits.
Well, I'm saying is in terms of like
Yeah, in terms of success. I'm messing with you. I'm messing
yeah,
with
so yeah, Fleetwood and her solo stuff was starting to really drop off in the 90s, as much as I tried not to.
you. Yeah.
Um,
You know, one of the coolest things Stevie Nicks ever did?
what was that?
She dated somebody in the band, and then when they broke up, he still was in the band, having to back her up every single night on stage. That's a total power move.
It totally is.
That's a power
And
move.
It's and it's another reason that I can't include the entire band of Fleetwood Mac on this is because some members were British.
Okay.
So I can only include Stevie Nicks on here. I could include
Stevie
Lindsey
Nicks,
Buckingham if I wanted to, but I can't include Nick Fleetwood. Nick Fleetwood was English, which is another
Stevie Nicks
reason
put out-
that, which is sadly the reason why I can't put Phil Collins on this list. But what are you going to do?
Stevie Nicks put out a killer song with Tom Petty too.
Yeah,
she did. Stop
Dragging
Dragging
My
My
Heart
Heart
Around.
Around is amazing.
Fantastic
I
song.
love that song.
Yeah. So, Carter, give us
Um,
one more honorable mention before we go into your favorite.
Okay, so number 2 is actually the same as Kyle's. It's Michael Jackson. I'm not even going to include the Jackson 5. I literally went online to look up all the things that he did. His Wikipedia page for his awards only was over 100 entries long.
That's awards won or nominated for.
Won and nominated for.
Okay. I mean, even still, that's incredible.
Even still, that's incredible. The man,
Yeah.
it was I think it was 108 entries of just awards that were just all the way down. I was just trying to look up how many like number ones or platinums he'd gotten. And I was just like, holy crap. Like, dude was king of pop for a reason. Dude is still ingrained in culture. Like, and even with all the stuff he did, like, people still look at Michael Jackson very fondly.
Yeah.
And the dude was just talented. He had a lot of demons, as do a lot of, music stars.
His were just a little worse than others.
His were just a little worse and a little more
a little, I mean, a
lot. Yeah. But for number one, it's got to be the same as Andy's. It's Tom Petty. The man literally had a career, put out his first album in 1976. His last album was put out in 2014, which was after he'd been popular, but the three of us still went and saw him, and it was great.
2014 PNC Arena. We loved where I love to tell that story to people about how, none of us really had much money at the time. We were all in college at NC State, and when we saw Tom Petty was in town, tickets were like, what were they, like $60, $80, something like that?
They were like $60, and we were in the
for us to sit in the
nosebleeds.
nosebleeds. We were just like, you know what, we got to do it because you never know how much longer we're going to have a chance to see this guy, and I'm glad we did.
Because 3 years later, he was dead.
Yep.
Ton of success. The man won 3 Grammy Awards, nominated for many more, 3 MTV Music Awards, tons of platinum and gold albums. He topped the Billboard US rock charts on multiple occasions. Highest he ever got on the top 100 was Free Fallin', which made it to number 7. And I mean, I'm not even including the Traveling Wilburys. I could probably put, like, Roy Orbison is in my honorable mentions. Yeah. Bob Dylan is another dude that was up here. I had him in my top 12. Like, the guy just, he's one of those that you can literally put his music on, and whether you're a rock fan or you're a pop fan or you're a country fan, you're going to be okay with Tom Petty being played, at least for a little while. I've not heard anybody ever say anything bad about Tom Petty's music, because it's one of those types of music that he's got passion in his music. He believes what he's singing.
Yeah.
He likes what he's singing. He's having fun with it. That's one of my favorite things about the Traveling Wilburys albums, is that it's just 5 guys who just happen to be some of the titans of rock and roll through the 60s, 70s, and 80s, just getting together and having fun making an album. And it's got a lot of passion behind it. And I, like Andy, I sat there and I was like, all right, who in my mind can top Tom Petty? And, I'm sure older people would say, oh, Elvis Presley would be it because he was king and all that stuff. Well, I don't have any experience with Elvis Presley. Like, I know of him because he's so ingrained in pop culture, but Elvis is a little too old for my style. I'm not too into his type of music.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson, great singer. I like his music.
Fantastic entertainer.
I mean, you just can't. In my mind, say it's not Tom Petty.
Yeah. And look, to piggyback off of that, like, to get into who my number one is, look, I know we're starting to sound repetitive here, but so does a lot of Tom Petty's choruses. But it's Tom Petty for me. It's easy. Like, I had kind of a brief moment where I was considering someone else, and I'll get into my honorable mention in a minute, but like, it's Tom Petty. I mean, the man sold 80 million records, first record in 76, last record in, I think, 2014, or you can get, if you want to count the 2016 record with Mudcrutch, his second record with Mudcrutch, like 2016 was another Tom Petty album. He had two to three very successful solo records, starting with Wildflowers, I think in '94, which I still hold up as one of the greatest records, one of the greatest albums in all of music ever. And, talk about, a guy with longevity, like I said, 76 to the mid to late 90s, that's unheard of, especially in a time where I got to give Tom Petty credit on something here. And it may not be that nice to say, but it's true. Tom Petty made it from the era of the 70s into the 80s, where it went from radio to MTV music videos. And Tom Petty made it through the music video era, being not the best example of the most attractive person to be on television. A lot of the 70s artists that were I guess, not as aesthetically pleasing didn't necessarily make it through the 80s. That man did. He made it through the 80s. He made it into the 90s. Even in the midst of the grunge era, still had hits. He still had chart success. He still had touring success. Tom Petty had 28 top 10 hits on the mainstream rock airplay chart. Like that's impressive. That's like insane for someone to have that. And like you said, his peak position on the Billboard Hot 100 song was the song with Stevie Nicks, "Stop Dragging My Heart Around," which is a fantastic song. Yeah. So like Tom Petty, from 1977 with Breakdown to 2006 solo record Saving Grace, he was 27 total entries on the Hot 100, with Breakdown being both his first Hot 100 hit and his first top 40 hit, peaking at number 40. Like Tom Petty just had an incredible long career, but also successful. But at the same time, what separates Tom Petty from a lot of people that are commercially successful is that Tom Petty was he found a way to marry the pop hook, the pleasant sounding like earworm of a hook, with music that was substantive and music that meant something, and was done in a rock and roll styling. And not only that, Tom Petty's songwriting was top tier. It was fantastic, and just the sheer influence that Tom Petty has had on American music is one that there are very few in his class in that regard. Austin Upchurch and I were talking about that on the interview an episode or two ago, and he was saying that, like, you know, his number one thing he wishes he could do in life is just to sit back, hang out with Tom Petty, and smoke a joint. Like, Tom Petty is just that dude, and he will always be one of my favorite artists of all time. And like, you can dig into even if you go into his later career with 2002's The Last DJ, fantastic record. It didn't score as high on the charts because it was 2002 and it was the era of Rick Ross and Eminem, and it was his day in the mainstream, and throw in Britney Spears too. She was a big deal at that point, but it was not rock music like that, but he still put out fantastic music. And his concert that Andy and Classic Rock Carter and I went to was one of the best shows we ever saw.
Yeah.
And they were incredibly talented to be in their late 50s, early 60s, or 60s, I think, at that point. So yeah, definitely Tom Petty for me as well. I got to give an honorable mention to one guy. Andy's not a fan. I'm a big fan, but his influence on American music, his influence in just who our main topic here on this show is, like, roots music, especially in the Texas Red Dirt scene. His fingerprints are all over that. And that's Bruce Springsteen. Bruce Springsteen deserves at least a mention because he had an incredibly long career. I think his first record came out in the mid 70s, and he was successful all the way through like the early 90s as well. And he is one of the best songwriters in American music history. No one will ever change my mind on that. Like, his influence over some of Andy, like BJ Barhams credits him as one of the big influences on him, as do countless others in the Texas Red Dirt scene. So Springsteen, even if you have some qualms with his sound or whatever, or the way he sings, like, Springsteen deserves a mention as one of the best, or one of the greatest American artists of all time.
Springsteen is like Isbell to me. I really have a tough time understanding them. Doesn't matter how great your song is written. If I can't understand it, it kind of doesn't work for me.
Yeah. I mean, I get that. You know, I've had long and depth conversations about Jason Isbell and his style.
I just can't make out what the guy's saying.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally can't deny you there was Springsteen. Springsteen was in my 12, actually.
Was he?
I mean, you can't deny him. Born in the USA was literally one of the best-selling albums of the 80s.
Oh, for sure. It's funny we didn't mention one band that I don't know how.
I have a mention. My honorable mention hasn't been mentioned yet.
Who is it? Because it might be.
It might be. Mine's the Eagles.
Yes, I was actually just about to get on that. So yeah, 100%.
Absolutely.
The reason I still can't give them an argument over Tom Petty is that they just didn't have the long-term success and as big as Tom Petty was.
The Eagles, they're not on my list.
That's why I didn't put them in the top two for me either.
Yeah, I couldn't put them on my list because my list was mostly individuals. The Eagles are the Eagles, you know.
Yeah.
Yes, Don
Henley, you know, they went out and they did their own stuff, and they had singles careers, and they were fine. But at the same time, they didn't reach the success that they were in the Eagles.
As a group,
it wasn't the Eagles.
No, I mean, look, the Eagles are a band too that their stylistic shift from beginning to the end of their career was incredible. At the very beginning, it was very influenced by like Flying Burrito Brothers style country rock, and then when they added Don Felder and then they added Joe Walsh, that's when the band really took off. They say that when they released the song Already Gone, I think that was pre-Wash, but when they released the song Already Gone, that's when they really started to rock. And then it all just kind of came together and the stars aligned for that Hotel California album, which is still one of the best selling albums of all time. And I believe their greatest hits album is in the top 5, I want to say, of greatest selling albums of all time. Like, it's fantastic from top to bottom. I know a lot of people hate on the Eagles because they're, like they say, they're too the sound is too slick in some ways, and like the guy from, what was the Carter, you know this movie better than we did, The Big Lebowski. What was the quote from that?
I fucking hate the Eagles.
Yeah, like I know people that love classic rock that hate the Eagles, and it just blows my mind. I don't get it.
I can't get it either. I mean, the Eagles, the only reason I couldn't put them up here is because I couldn't put like an individual member up here.
Yeah.
I couldn't put
the longevity is the thing that cut it out from, I think, both me and Andy, was like because they had such a short span where they were together and they didn't have that long career. Because in my mind, like, and maybe and this is my fault as the host if I wasn't clear on this, but artist doesn't encapsulate one person in my mind. It just means like they're an artist. A band is an artist. Like, artist is a band kind of thing for purposes of this. But like Andy's dead on the nose with me too. Like they weren't together long enough for me to include them with the likes of Petty and Springsteen.
It's how you weight things too, I guess, in this sense too. It's like Michael Jackson versus Tom Petty. Michael Jackson was more popular than Tom Petty, but I don't think his song quality was there as well as Tom Petty's was. Yeah. And like with the Eagles, their song quality, I think I think it's better than Tom Petty, but it's not enough to outweigh the longevity of Tom Petty's popularity.
Yeah. What do you think, Sanitation Kyle? Do you have any thoughts on these artists? Because we've been kind of talking over you.
So back to what Andy said. He said song quality compared to Michael Jackson. Well, I would argue just raw talent and just vocal talent would make Michael Jackson better than Tom Petty. I mean, I don't think Tom Petty's all that great of a singer, but it's just a personal.
That's fair criticism.
Yeah. Now, on my honorable mention, I went away from success and I just went to pure talent, and I actually said Whitney Houston.
That's a really fair choice.
She didn't have, I mean, she had a lot of commercial success, nowhere near Michael Jackson or Tom Petty. She's probably the greatest American singer.
From a vocal standpoint. Yeah,
just from raw talent. So that's kind of where I went with that. I kind of went off the cuff a little bit there, but that was my honorable mention.
No, like, Whitney Houston was a fantastic vocalist. Like, I'd be hard pressed to put somebody up who I think it rivals her in that regard. And she had a bit of tumultuous times at times in her life as well, which is unfortunate. Yeah. But you know, she definitely deserves a mention in my mind too. For that.
I had her in my 12.
Did you?
I did.
Just read the list of who you picked, so we kind of have.
Okay, so.
Is this in any order for people that are
not really?
Just kind of
not really in any order. Just kind of as I thought them up, I slapped them down. So Tom Petty, Michael Jackson.
That should be a T-shirt. Thought them up, slapped them down.
You make it, we'll sell it. Tom Petty, Michael Jackson, Bob Dylan. I put up here. I mean, I essentially had that he was essentially the voice of '60s folk protest music, like
an out of tune voice, but he was a voice.
And I mean, but when you think of the Vietnam War, you probably have either a CCR or a Bob Dylan song as the backing track.
Yeah.
Elvis Presley, he's the freaking king. You can't. Yes, exactly, because of Forrest Gump. Elvis Presley, you can't put him off this list. You literally can't. I can't even like rattle off like song success. We all know his songs literally just because they're a part of pop culture. Chuck Berry is one that I put up here.
Chuck Berry 100% deserves to be on there because the man basically is the father of modern American rock and roll.
Absolutely. Like, so much of the stuff that he did inspired later people down the line.
Yeah. There wouldn't be what we consider rock and roll without Chuck Berry.
Yeah. My thing that gets me with that is where the British invasion ties back into that same sort of era is where I had to kind of move away from that style argument in this conversation.
Yeah. Well, look, the Beatles definitely overshadowed Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
But Chuck
that's
Berry,
where the
there
thing
wouldn't
is-
have been American rock and roll without Chuck Berry. That's just
comes back in-
No.
a fact. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the Beatles, George Harrison straight up said that Chuck Berry was one of his inspirations, I think.
Yeah.
Was it George or was it John?
Yeah.
Was it Paul? I forget.
Yeah.
One of the Beatles said there was awesome
One of
inspiration.
the Beatles. The Beatles.
One of those British guys.
One of them.
Yeah.
Anyway, Whitney Houston, Stevie Nicks, John Fogerty, Dolly Parton,
Okay.
and I literally
You
have
actually included a country artist, I see.
I literally have as the note, it's friggin' Dolly Parton. Like
yeah.
the woman has
Dolly Parton
woman
is an
had-
American
Not what I
treasure.
thought your
And I
note was
will
gonna
always
be.
stand by that.
the woman has a damn theme park.
Yeah.
Like, how is she not ingrained into American culture at that point? And she's literally like one of the nicest people in the world.
100%.
She has like so many songs that you can just rattle off the top of your head. And
Name us.
everybody knows.
I
Everybody
couldn't
knows
name a
9 to
single
5.
song.
Everybody
Jolene.
knows
You couldn't
9
name
to 5.
Jolene?
Everybody knows Jolene. Everybody remembers her singing "Islands in the Stream" with freaking Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
Like, you just can't not think of Dolly Parton, especially in the South. But honestly,
I beg to
anywhere in
differ on you on
America.
that one because I
So-
could not think of Dolly Parton pretty easy.
I was trying to
Wow.
remember the second song on this. This is incredible, and it's worth mentioning now that you brought up Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton wrote Jolene and "I Will Always Love You" in the same day. That's incredible. Like
That is
that's
impressive.
that's
And
worth
it links
mentioning
back to
'cause that's
Whitney
incredible. And it links back to Whitney Houston. We circled back around and dialed it in.
Who does sing it better than Dolly Parton? I'm just saying.
Yeah.
No, she
Yes.
does. She does. From a pure powerful vocal standpoint, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
But I always am a person. I mean, look, we have a Roots Music podcast, so
Yes,
I'm
this
a
is
person
true.
that likes to give a nod to the songwriter because I put a lot of weight on. As much as I love George Strait, for an example, I kind of give Alan Jackson the nod a little bit because Alan Jackson penned most of his songs. So
100% agree.
yeah,
Concur.
And then to close out the 12 is Springsteen and Dave Grohl, who we've already gone over.
Yeah.
And then I have my 10 honorable mentions: Johnny Cash.
yeah,
Personal one here, mostly Eddie Vedder. I know his singing is awful, and you mostly can't understand the words of most Pearl Jam songs. But I think just in terms of success, Pearl Jam needs to be put up
give
there.
us an
because they're
Eddie
probably one
Vedder
of the better bands.
impersonation. You do it all the time in the car, man. Come on, pretend the mic's not there.
I don't know. I don't really have like a song backing me up or anything right now.
all right, fair enough. It's
Yeah.
hard. It's sorry to put you on the spot first episode, but
Yeah,
I know you
it's
do a
fine.
good one.
Put
So
me on the spot there. Cobain, I already went over Cobain. It's going to feel really bad to put these two together, but Stevie Wonder and Ray Charles,
okay, Carter, you're an
Mostly just
insistent
because of-
prick.
mostly because of their talent and the fact that they both overcame blindness to be some of the greatest musicians.
Yeah,
Janis Joplin, James Taylor.
yeah. James Taylor is look funny thing about James Taylor. I believe I read that James Taylor is the one who got the Beatles hooked on acid.
I wouldn't doubt that, honestly. Eric Clapton, Roy Orbison,
Yeah,
and then this is probably going to throw everybody off, and I've mentioned it to y'all already who this is going to be.
Florida Georgia Line.
Weird Al Yankovic.
Okay.
Weird Al Yankovic has
Okay.
been
Look, I'm
added.
going to set aside some time right now to designate Carter. Class R Carter is a big Weird Al fan, so I'm going
I
to let
love
him
Weird
give
Al.
I'm going to give him
Ed Mosby over there.
I'm going to give you 2 minutes to give you 2 minutes to give a full-throated defense of why Weird Al deserves to be on this list.
Weird Al Yankovic has been going at it since the 80s, has pretty much constantly ingrained himself in pop culture, has constantly given himself a cult following. He hasn't stayed that long in the limelight. Usually he releases an album and then he goes away for like 5-6 years, releases another album, and just constantly finds success. The dude's an incredible musician. His last tour that he did for about every single stop on the tour, which was about 30-40 different stops, his band covered a different song for their encore. And it was covers of literally anything from like the 20s all the way up into 2020 of different styles of songs that him and his band covered. The man's a musical genius, and the fact that he covers these songs and gives them a comedy spin to them, but even if it's a song that doesn't hold up in pop culture, his comedy songs still stand up on their own because he writes them so well, or he gives them a subject matter that is essentially timelessly funny. Like years from now, we're probably not going to remember Royals by Lord. Hell, probably no one remembers Royals by Lord at this point. What is it? 7-8 years since it was popular.
I remember Lloyd because of South Park.
Yes, exactly. Everybody remembers.
I even know that song.
Yes. Anyway, Weird Al Yankovic on one of his latest albums did a freaking parody about the uses of tinfoil, and turned it into essentially one where he became a conspiracy theorist wearing a tinfoil hat. That's timeless, even if you don't even know Royals by Lord. And just the fact that, like, go on his YouTube and look up the man playing Classical Gas on the accordion just off the cuff. The dude is one of the greatest, just talented musicians, and he gets very little credit. And I want to give him at least some credit here. He's a comedy dude, but the guy found his niche, and he has worked it to the best of his ability for 30 plus years at this point. That's a hell of a career. He's made a lot of money off of it. He's got a lot of people that work with him and say he's one of the best people to work with. Freaking, his name escapes me.
I can see your points, and I'm willing to acknowledge that he is a very talented guy. I think the only reason I probably wouldn't have put him on the list is just because of, a lot of it's parody writing. But it's very good parody writing. Like, I mean,
and that's why he's an honorable mention. And I just wanted to bring him up because we're using longevity.
Fun fact, you know who gave him the idea for Like a Surgeon, right?
Wasn't that Madonna herself?
Ted Mosby. Nah, how much
talking about references that aren't going to hold up in 2020?
Yeah, I know, right? It's sad. Great show. but yeah. No, I mean, Weird Al. I mean, like, I get it, but yeah.
Just an honorable mention. I know not a lot of people are going to be on board with that, but I just have to throw it out there, especially if longevity and sustained success is one of our big criteria for this.
Yeah.
Dude's 30 plus years and constantly been selling great records and putting out quality parody music for that entire time.
Yeah. Well, look, fair enough, man. You made some good points, so I'm willing to acknowledge that. Well, I think that wraps up that segment. Like, we had some all-time artists that we talked about in there. I mean, we had some good reasons behind it, and I think the consensus amongst the Country Gold Can staff is Tom Petty. But Kyle made a very good point for Michael Jackson. I think that deserves mentioning.
It's all how you weight things. I totally see where Kyle's coming from.
This is partially quantitative, partially qualitative. So there's always going to be some subjectivity to who you think is the greatest anything.
There's no way to ever pick a single person.
No, but as long as you make a valid case and you substantiate it, like, I'm willing to give it credence. If you came in here and told me Sam Hunt, I probably would have been like, all right, you're not coming back. But go ahead. Oh, I thought you were about to say something, Kyle. But so for one last segment, and I'm going to put Carter on the spot a little bit, but Carter, will you please, for the audience, look up the song Ready, Set, Roll and read us the lyrics like you did last time I was in town?
All right.
And do it in the exact same way, because Carter was pretty good at doing this stuff. Because Carter, just a little background for some context, Carter hates pop country with a burning passion. Kyle and me and to a lesser extent Andy are much more amenable to that style of music. We don't love it, but we can deal with certain aspects of it. Carter hates it. So Carter,
is this Chase Rice?
Yeah, This is Chase Rice.
I kind of secretly like this song a little bit.
Oh Lord.
I can see Andy rolling down the road in Montana going, ready, set, let's roll. All right, Carter.
All right. Him. Ready, set, let's roll. Let's roll. Damn pretty girl, you done went and done it again. You gone and turned your sexy all the way up to 10. I never seen a side ride seat looking so hot. Baby, you rock. Hit the spot like a fireball shot. You got me all high head spinning around and around. I'm down if you're down to burn down this town. Ready, set, let's roll. Ready, set, let's ride. Get your little fine ass on the step, shimmy up inside. Just slide, girl. by my side, girl. Yeah, we can run this town. I can rock your world. We can roll them down, fog them up, cruise around, get stuck. Pedal to the metal till the sun comes up. I made a deal with the man on the moon. He's going to put in some overtime. We got all night. Ready, set, let's roll. Ready, set, let's ride. I now have to scroll. Oh, Christ, there's more. God.
Do you want to cut it there?
It's like when we were in first grade and they made us like read along the book and around in class. Like that's the level of reading this is essentially.
What was that poem we had to write in college English, Andy, in high school? Spring Fling Ding or whatever it was called.
Yeah, I don't remember. Hey, that English teacher told us we were doing a good job.
He did. He had a very low bar, and we crossed that low bar.
Dude, you can impress him with anything.
Yeah, you could. He's a very good dude, but didn't have high expectations for anyone.
When you read that song like a Christmas story, it sounds like a cult follower getting a little rapey.
Unfortunately, but it's very, very creepy. I will say it. When you actually read it and you don't hear the electronic noises behind it, it's very creepy sounding. Especially the line where he's like, the part that I kind of wanted to dive into for one brief second was, Carter, what is your take on? Is he saying that he climb up inside girl by my side girl? Is he saying climb up beside me girl or get beside my side girl? And he's got two girls on the truck.
Let's see here. Just slide girl by my... See, there's no comma there. There's no comma after side. So this is saying he's got a side girl already in the car. Chase Rice wants to have a three-way.
That's what it sounds like.
that is what's going on here. I mean, there's literally no comma here. It's just slide girl by my side girl. And he thinks she's got a little fine ass. Wow.
Which girl?
Sexist. I guess the girl's shimmying up inside, which is not a side girl. Because the side girl's already in the truck.
Yeah, the side girl's already in the truck.
And then he's picking this girl up.
Interesting. But yeah,
so at least that's what I'm interpreting out of this anyway.
I really want this to be a recurring segment whenever Carter comes on, because Carter has he has a good voice for radio, and when he puts his enunciations and his emotions in a very William Shatner way into these things, I find it very funny. Hopefully everyone else does too. But all right, so I appreciate you guys taking the time, Carter, you especially, considering this is your first episode. But
hey, I had fun.
Yeah, man.
I'm always down for a civil discussion about things I enjoy.
Yeah. And hopefully, like, you can come on some more, and even if we need somebody just to critique some things, like I know you love to critique country music. So
all right, so when are we having the wildlife biology podcast episode?
All right, that's enough for this episode of Country and Cold Cans. I'm Logan, sitting here with Sanitation Kyle, Trucker Andy, the man of Montana, and the original BKMC, Classic Rock Carter, soon to be the master of classic rock. We'll see you next time.